Good day, everyone. I'm Dr. Tad Schnaufer with the Global and National Security Institute here at the University of South Florida. Welcome to our second episode of the GNSI podcast, What's Really Happening? I'm here with GNSI Executive Director, General Frank McKenzie, who will be joining us throughout all of What's Really Happening's episodes as we explore urgent security issues from around the world. Drawing on his unique experience of over 42 years serving as a Marine Corps officer, with his last post as a commander of United States Central Command, where he oversaw military operations throughout all the greater Middle East, What's Really Happening will take you behind the headlines and provide you insight from a senior leader who's been in the room where the major decisions have been made that have changed history. Today we're going to discuss the National Guard State Partnership Program. The State Partnership Program, known as the SPP, has recently marked over 30 years of building relationships between individual state National Guards and partner nations around the globe. The SPP is a unique program created in 1993 to support new democracies emerging in Eastern Europe after the collapse of the Soviet Union. From 1993, this partnership program has expanded to over 88 partnerships with 100 nations and includes every single U.S. state and four territories. The program has fostered enduring relationships, and a great example of that has been seen with the California National Guard's partnership with Ukraine. From the onset of Russia's invasion of 2022, the California National Guard has been consulted by their Ukrainian armed forces partners throughout the conflict on different tactical and strategic issues. With the expansion of the State Partnership Program in 2023, what's really happening with this program?
So, Tad, the State Partnership Program is a uniquely American approach to the problem of working with allies. We have the National Guard does two things. It allows us to, with any given nation, have a lot more contact than we would if we just had the joint force that's deployed or associates with that country. By using the National Guard, we have a persistent friendship with that country that operationally multiplies the effects that we can achieve, and that's very important. You know, if you want to do exercises, the joint force, the regular joint force, may not have the ability to send units to that exercise. The affiliated state partner, though, may have the ability to do that. In fact, may also have the ability to host the exercise, both in the United States and then attend in the country that we're talking about. That's a huge advantage. And so that's the operational advantage. But that's actually the least important thing that the National Guard brings. What the National Guard brings that is most important is American values. The values of our joint force and our nation, to giving them a chance to interact at the very low level to the very highest levels with the country that we're working with. And that's where you get the profound advantage of using citizen soldiers from the United States across the world to allow people to be exposed to the way the United States really is, what our young men and women are actually like, what our values are. And they gain exposure to the country that they're working in. It's a unique thing. There's nothing else like it anywhere in the world. If I sound enthusiastic about it, it's because I am and I was, particularly when I was a combatant commander.
And just drawing on that, General, as the commander of U.S. CENTCOM, how did you employ SPP missions? How did you help direct those?
Sure. So what you do, a given country, you work with the country team, the ambassador in that country, to decide, because he or she's going to get a vote on what you do. Then you talk to the military of that country. What are the things that we can do together? What are they interested in learning about? It might be squad tactics. It might be tank operations. It might be any one of a number of other things that the National Guard unit will, because of the depth and breadth of our National Guard capabilities, that they can bring. It can be NCO development, developing young leaders in that force. All of these things the National Guard can do. So what you try to do is tailor a plan that allows you to pursue those objectives. It's got to be something the host nation wants, clearly. You can't go in and say, here's what we're going to do. So it's an interactive process, and that's a process of negotiation. The combatant commander and the ambassador are going to be responsible for that ultimately, but I always try to give the National Guard of the respective state as much flexibility as I could to work with the host nation. And what you want to achieve ultimately is you want to build exercises. You want to build a continuum of training that carries on year after year. So if there are political ups and downs with that nation, between us and them at the political level, you want that to not perturb what's going on at the National Guard level in the State Partnership Program. Again, what it's about is showing American values to the world exposing them to what we are, who we actually are. And it's a great opportunity to do that. The more exercises you have, the better you can do it. Of course, there's never enough money to do all that you want to do. But I have found that the National Guard can be extremely innovative and thoughtful in how they scope and craft these exercises.
Well, how did you measure the success of those missions when they're on the ground? Because a lot of the stuff that comes out of these, like you said, spreading American values and building relationships are intangible.
Right. Those are the intangible components. What you can measure is if you're there to teach squad tactics, how effective is that done? That's very easy to measure.
Right.
So there are objective things that you can measure, and we measure all of those things. And then you go to the consumer, you go to the country that you're with. How was it? So you sample them. But again, that's the backbone. But I can't emphasize enough, the advantage really is the exposure to the American soldier and what they bring and the values that are transmitted in two ways as a result of that interaction.
Do you see this being able to spread American values and this mission overall having a role in strategic competition as Russia is expanding influence in parts of Africa via the Wagner Group and obviously China with the Belt and Road Initiative constantly expanding influence? Is there some way the SPP fits into that strategic competition?
Great question, and I would argue it really is part of the secret sauce that we should be employing here. No, Russia has no National Guard. China has no equivalent. They don't have the ability to bring these citizen soldiers forward to work with these countries. So I would argue we should continue to emphasize this. I know I did as the Central Command commander. I could never get enough National Guard out into the Central Command AOR. I think it's a uniquely American advantage.
Right. And what keeps countries from Russia and China just mirroring the program?
Well, they have no National Guard, for one thing. They don't have the ability to bring highly motivated citizen soldiers, men and women who have a day job, who do something at home, possibly important in their community, that are willing to give of their time and effort to go abroad to work with a partner nation, and then to perhaps host them back in the state that they're from. Sure. That requires extraordinary dedication, and I think it's a uniquely American trait, frankly.
Sure. Well, and what's the difference between putting an active duty soldier on the ground and putting a National Guard soldier on the ground?
Well, so first of all, there are never enough active duty soldiers to go around.
Yeah, fair enough.
They have to do other things as well. And so what the National Guard does, it fills that vital training role, that vital outreach role. We could use active duty soldiers for that, and they do it very well. But they have other demands, other critical demands on their time that make it hard to have enough of them to go around. So what the National Guard does, and it's wrong to think of them as just an adjunct or a filler, it really is a partnership. It's a partnership with the host country, and it's a partnership with the regular military force as well that we get with the National Guard.
Sure, and you have these long, enduring relationships because people in the National Guard tend not to change units, and they'll stay in the same state for 20, 30 years sometimes.
That's an important characteristic to add of that. You're right. And nations in my region in particular valued that longitudinal relationship, that relationship you can develop over time, whereas tactical units from the regular force, they're in and out, they're very good, but it's going to be a complete different unit the next time and a completely different commander. Here with the National Guard, you can gain a sense of personal relationships that are very important.
And with that, as they build these long-term relationships, and as an example of Iowa and Kosovo, Kosovo opened a consulate in Iowa. They've done student exchanges now. They've done police exchanges, law enforcement exchanges. As those relationships deepen, does that improve the U.S.'s stance when it comes to strategic competition of either denying or keeping out maybe one of our competitors from having influence in that country?
Well, I think it does. I think here's the working theory. And my working theory is this: the more you expose people to the United States and what we're really about, what our values are, what we can do, the more they're going to like what they see, and the more they're going to have you give them an opportunity to contrast it to what the Chinese are bringing or what the Russians are bringing. I think we'll win those competitions every time.
Sure. Basically because Russia and China are more transactional in their relationships, right?
And the beauty of the state partnership program is it is not a transactional relationship. It is a strategic relationship that's nurtured over time between the state and the United States and the country.
So as it continues to grow, again, we talked about 100 nations, 88 partnerships. Some states have multiple partnerships with multiple nations. As it grows, where do you think the impetus should be, and where they place new
So that's intensely competitive. When I was the CENTCOM commander, I fought long and hard for countries that I wanted particularly to have outreach to. I would argue you need to, because the depth of some of our National Guards in various states, you can have more than one country associated with a National Guard, as you've already noted. you'd like to try to get most countries in the world to have some form of a National Guard affiliation. But I think you need to look at the countries that are key to us. That's where you really need to put the National Guard into, because particularly in countries where we're going to be looking at China in competition. For me, and so that a number of countries in my region meet that criteria.
Right, in the central region, you have Texas with Egypt, and is there any country in particular there that you see needing a state partnership?
Well, I think you'd like to do something with Saudi Arabia.
Sure.
I think you'd like to do something there, and I think that would be very important. And Ted, I'm just out of touch with what's happened with that.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if we followed through with that. So have we?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah. Well, Ted, I think Saudi Arabia is an example of a country that would benefit from a state partnership relationship.
And then with our old, more established allies in NATO, would there be benefits there? Because for the state partnership programs, avoided, I guess, the more Western countries.
Right. So I think you go to places that are still getting on their feet.
Okay.
I think that's where there's greatest bang for the buck. A state partnership program with the United Kingdom, probably, while certainly fun for the unit that's going to go do it,
sure,
might not give us the broadest bang for the buck. You go into further Eastern Europe, where they're hungry for information on how to do squad training, how to develop NCOs. That's where you can bring the unique advantage of the Guard, I think.
Sure. And then one of the criticisms of the program is being able to align with the combatant commander's intent, the tag or the leader, the general, the National
Right.
Guard, and then the ambassador and the State
Right.
Department, where this program kind of covers all those different lanes. So
Right.
how do you keep the state partnership program from, not getting too much in the State Department's lane or not getting
So, Tad, I never had a problem with that in Central Command.
Great.
We were pretty clear what we wanted from those units, and the National Guard always answered. And when you go to a country, you just have to recognize the U.S. ambassador is in charge.
Sure.
And so really it is the ambassador and the combatant commander sort of setting the strategic priorities. Then you work with the Guard unit, the TAG, to see what they can deliver within those constraints. I never had a problem with it. I found the National Guard to be flexible, forward-thinking, and eager to engage. So it was never a problem for us in Central Command.
Oh, that's excellent. And with that, the final question here is, what was one of the best Guard units to work with? Which state really stood out for you?
Well, there are a lot of great states out there, sure. And I'm here in Florida, so I would always say the Florida National Guard does a pretty good job. Yeah. But they're each unique, and that's really the beauty of the Guard relationship. The National Guards vary from state to state. Sure. The lack of uniformity, if you will, is actually a profound advantage in this domain.
Right, and that's where they've said many of the state partnership programs go off of the ethnic background of the states,
That's right.
the different units of the states,
That's right.
even if the state have a national resource like oil or something that's similar to another partnership.
You're absolutely right. And again, this is a great advantage for the United States that really no one else in the world has.
Well, that's excellent. Well, thank you, General, for your time. Hello, everyone. Dr. Tad here with a quick cut-in to give a shout-out to the Florida National Guard. As a member of the Florida National Guard for over 15 years, I certainly agree with General McKenzie of its merits and its stellar state partnership program, which has it paired with Guyana, as well as the Regional Security System, the RSS, which is an organization of 8 member states in the Caribbean that aim to further the security and defense of that region. As a member of the Florida Army National Guard, I've had the opportunity to train in Guyana, as well as Barbados, with these critical partners. And that experience was a testament to the ability of this program to build military-to-military relations. From all of us here at GNSI, we want to thank the Florida National Guard for all it does for the citizens of Florida. Well, that wraps up this episode of the podcast, and we hope to see you next time when we find out what's really happening.